For everything from questions about cucumbers to homes on cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, learn about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a big good morning to you as we start off another edition of the Ask Mr. Greenthumb's Gardening and Real Estate Show. And, of course, I am the papa.
And I am the son, James DeFreitas, and each and every Sunday here, I always like to remind people that if you have gardening questions, you can go to askmrgreenthumb.com. That's ask, that's ASKMR, greenthumb.com. And you can go to the top of the his website there, and you can type or just tap on the Ask button. And from there, you can submit a gardening question. You can attach a photo. We always recommend people attach a photo, especially if it's a bug ID or if it's something going right, going wrong with your garden or lawn. We seem to get a lot of lawn questions, and so that's always appropriate. Now, if we can't tell what's going right or what's going wrong, then, again, sometimes a horticultural consult is in order, and we recommend that you give Stan a call at 727-423-4794, and of course we'll be glad to come out, and of course we do charge for that because we do have to eat, but again, a lot of times it's cheaper to know. I mean, almost always it's better to know than to sit back and go, geez, if I'd only known that was what was going wrong, I wouldn't have had to replace my yard, or I wouldn't have had to have that tree cut down.
Yeah, we like to try to help people. I'm always amazed. It's usually the doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, financial advisor that will hire someone like myself to pay for time, because they are paid by time often. And they'll appreciate the idea that I'm going to give them. I'm an arborist, a certified arborist that never carries a chainsaw. So I'm not out there to try to cut your tree down. In fact, I would rather save trees any old day of the week than see them taken down.
Right, and of course, and if we do see a tree that is dead and it needs to be cut down,
sure.
Of course, we're going to then tell you to reach out to Kelly Stafford at Stafford Tree Service, because she is a fantastic lady, and they do a fantastic job. I can vouch for that, because they trim all of the trees in my community where I live, and every cut is perfect and professional as you would expect it to be, and they are fantastic. You can go to their website at you can actually just type in Stafford Tree Service in, especially if you're in Clearwater, in your Google search, and it will pop up with their web address, and you can go right to them. So we love Kelly Stafford.
We do, and I would say one of the problems I've had in the last year, and not to get on a soapbox, but when you let every tree company make their own decisions about taking a tree out, most of them are going to say, let's take the tree down. Now, I don't think Stafford would. I don't think UTC would. I don't think a lot of the good companies would just say take trees down. But I know in my own neighborhood, I looked at some trees that were taken down, and I saw nothing wrong with those trees, and yet they were taken down, because it's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house. You're the arborist. You're working for the company. Where do we make our biggest profit center? Well, could we have Mr. Greenthumb come out and inject that tree for $350 and save it, or could we charge $3,000 and cut it down? Now, I'm not saying there aren't times that you should. In fact, I'm going to look at a tree earlier this next week. It's got some dead wood up there, and I'm probably going to recommend that they have a tree service trim out the dead for sure. In fact, sure. I already told the lady, go ahead and book having the tree service come out, because that's not what I do. I'm going to be there to look at your tree and give you an honest opinion. I said, if the tree is dead, I will tell you that, or I think it needs to come down if it's not safe.
Sure.
And let me tell you, folks, the time to try to find out about that is now. Don't wait till that hurricane is 12 hours away and call the tree service and think they can get out there to take that tree down that you knew was dead hanging over your bedroom.
Right. They're going to be busy.
Yes, you can throw the dice and you can see, but let me tell you, it normally doesn't work well. But I do have a little bit of problem, and I think there are some abuses that have occurred when you totally let the tree company make those decisions.
I agree with that. I mean, if I had something to say to every municipality who all often is going to be reliant on, let's say, a city board or the like to help make these decisions, or whomever's going to pass out the permits to cut these trees down, especially when they're live oak, there probably should be some conflict of interest at least thought of when they're getting ready to issue these permits. One of the thoughts that I think that they should probably have is they should just go ahead and build it into the rule set. When you're applying for a tree permit, they should just say, look, if you're a certified arborist, you cannot be the one, deciding for yourself, because I'd love to see the tree service out there that was willing to say, no, I don't think it should be cut down, because you're relying on people to, and I'm not saying that people won't do the right thing. I'm just saying that there is a more likely than not, there's an incentive for people to want to do work and to make money. So you probably want to make sure that we're in a situation where you're having other people, with an outside, unbiased, unvarnished opinion, make that decision.
I agree. I think that's important to do, and which brings me to a story about...
In a second. I mean, one of the things that, again, we're talking about the arborist side of things, and one of the things I would suggest to people is, if you're not sure, if you see that you have puck marks in the tree and you have other problems in your trees, running sap, bark sloughing off of your oak tree, you probably are going to want to have a consult. You're going to want to have us come out, take a look at it, and tell you, what degree of infection that you have going on there. And, if it's something where it's too far gone, we're going to tell you about it. We're going to sit back and say, hey, you should have probably called us 2 or 3 years ago. Now you're at the 80% dead, and typically if there's not much life left, we'll tell you that too, even if it doesn't mean that we can do anything to help treat the tree.
Yeah, there are times I go out and I say, look, I'm sorry, the tree is too far gone. You're going to lose that tree. And I've actually had people cry because they love that tree so much. It's been part of the landscape for the last, let's say, 50 years or maybe 100 years. And it really becomes something that they get attached to. But like with so many things, you probably should be getting it checked out from time to time. And I know a lot of folks don't, and especially the older generation, I say my age and older, a tree's a tree's a tree. It's been there forever. Why get it checked out? And the same reason you should get yourself checked out for cancer, for heart conditions, for stroke, get checked out before you have a problem.
Yeah, makes sense. And most people, you can either be proactive or you can be reactive in life. And we say this a lot. And I always say that you kick yourself when you're reactive, and you're always proud of yourself when you're proactive. I mean, that's just a fact. And so, we definitely recommend that. Switching gears a little bit, because the other part of this show, of course, is real estate. And again, we often do have a lot of real estate agents that wind up listening to our show and or watching it on YouTube or any of the other various avenues. We're also on Apple Podcasts, and so YouTube, Apple Podcasts. I wind up putting a bump on your AskMrGreenthumb.com website, and then the other one too, Audible. I didn't know that we were on Audible, but we are also being simulcast on Audible.com. They'll probably let me know if they're putting them up in other locations, which they might be, and so that's something to think about. But one of the things I wanted to mention to Florida Realtors is that they did change the FAR contracts, and they've added some riders. And these are going to go into effect on November the 1st. And on November the 1st, this is when the changes will happen. So what they did is they post-dated this a little bit so that people would have some time to go and find out what the changes are so that they could become more knowledgeable about it. Now, it doesn't mean a whole lot to you and me, because when we're selling real estate, we're usually doing it through an auction process, and we use our own contracts at that point.
Which are slightly different than the FAR.
Which is slightly different than the FAR, and actually they're kind of worded more in the favor for the seller, because our interest is really to try to to make it more favorable for the seller, because that's our first and foremost. That's where we pick up the business first. Sure. So, but some of the major changes that as I was reading through this. And again, this is for the as-is version, and apparently there are 10 writers that they've added. So I'm not going to go through all of the different components of it, but apparently they've changed some of the loan approval period. What they basically have done here is they've made it to where the language has changed a little bit, so that, if an appraisal doesn't come back as the way it should, that they still have an option to bring it back onto MLS and try to still get a buyer to buy it. So they've changed that on Section 8B. There's also, so they've redefined the loan approval, what that means. There's a standard, Standard O says delivery notice methods have changed. In addition to current options, mail or personal delivery notices may also be delivered by fax or email. However, certain electronic media delivery previously provided for in the contract was deleted. So, they've changed little things in here, but they also included several little things too on the contract. I mean, I guess, and I never would have thought of this, but they made sure that making sure thermostats and stuff are included as part of the things that convey with the property, whereas I guess that wasn't mentioned in the past.
You mean there were people taking their thermostats?
Yeah, because they wind up putting in these $200 and $300 advanced thermostats. Remember, every piece of doodad that goes into a home, when you think of a thermostat originally, you think of a $30 contraption, at least I do. I think of a $30 contraption with a piece of mercury inside that would tilt one way or the other to make the connection if you wanted the device on or off.
Right.
Well, that's all gone now.
Now mine's like a little small computer, as yours is.
Now it's a little small computer, and and so it's one of these scenarios where people are taking these things, and and then you're going, what happened to the thermostat? Now they're having to deal with it. So now that's some language that's in there that helps them out. But again, if anybody's interested in that, take the time, go through it all, and look at that. You want to be knowledgeable for your customer. You don't want to be learning on the job. And a lot of real estate agents, if they're honest, they do learn on the job. I mean, everyone does to some degree, but you should familiarize yourself with the changes. I'm probably not going to get too excited about the changes because, like I said, we don't really use them unless we were doing a traditional sale, and then I would really tighten that up. Of course, you are listening to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show, and we will be back.
And we want you to make sure if you've got a plant question, house plant, or house itself problem, stay with us as the Plant Talk continues.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, FloridaAuctionTeam.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give them a call. 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're with you when we want to answer your gardening questions. I might throw out a nice shout out to the Sunset Garden Club. I gave a talk this last week, and I haven't given talks in a number of years, really, to any groups. I used to do all the home shows. I say back when we had more home shows, we don't seem to. I guess we've had a few, but they kind of slipped through. I didn't even notice them like I used to, and I don't know why. I mean, I did see some stuff the other day.
Well, COVID,
I guess COVID. Yeah, COVID probably has kicked the home show circuit hard.
Anything in person. I mean, and the same thing goes for real estate auctions. I mean, it's difficult to ask people to all get together in a closed environment and say, hey, I know you want to buy a house, but nobody wanted to get COVID in the process of doing something like that. So now everything, the one nice thing though is I am starting to see more and more people that that are fully vaccinated. I'm seeing a lot less of this, and I think at some level most people are starting to get back to the concept that we can head back to some semblance of the way it was. It's not. I don't think it's going to be ever like it exactly was, but I think we might have some shadow that somewhat resembles 2019, or the first 3 months of 2020. I should even add. But anyways, that being said, you said you had some gardening.
Well, I was just
articles.
noticing a law. I saw the story the other day, and it was the California law to eventually ban gas-powered lawn equipment. And of course, I always worry about whatever happens in California because it seems in a year or two or three, we seem to follow suit with what California does sometimes.
Oh, yeah. It's like California, New York, and then some of the other areas that are more progressive.
California will soon ban the sale of any new gas-powered leaf blowers, lawn mowers, and this is, of course, a move to curb emissions from a category of small engines. And Governor Newsom, who
survived his recall.
Yeah, who survived his recall, and Larry Elder didn't get put in.
Well, it's amazing what you can do when you change the rules.
So I guess he wants to continue with his power, I guess, no pun intended, his power grab here.
Well, it's funny is that, I often wonder, and again, I don't try to get too political, but
yeah,
I tend to think that the recall thing seemed to be synonymous with the firm hand that he was showing the people with regards to the COVID restrictions. It seemed like it went hand in glove together. And then all of a sudden, when he realized he was up for a recall, then all of a sudden he seemed to relax his policies a tad. Then for him to have the policies, then he, in some areas they had the policies come back even tougher. And, but again, I'm sure he would take great offense to that.
Well, it's a matter of now. I happen to have an electric weed eater. I happen to have an electric blower, but and I personally think that's where things are heading. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I'm kind of an oxymoron in many respects. I'm conservative in a few things, and fiscally in particular, but I'm also liberal on some things. I've never believed, all one of any side is perfect. And
because they're not. Both sides have their problems.
And if you do that, you've swallowed the Kool-Aid too much on either side. And I find that sometimes too. It's like, I'm not talking to you because you're a Republican. I'm not talking to you because you're a Democrat. Well, we need to learn to get along.
Right. Well, that's why it was nice to see Andrew Yang wanting to come out and form his own independent forward, I guess that's what he's calling it, move forward, independent party kind of thing. So I think that's actually a good thing for the country.
I mean, someone said to me recently, well, I happen to have a hybrid car that takes power and takes gas, and somebody said, well, those batteries can be a problem. Well, yes, batteries can be a problem. They'll figure out what to do with the batteries and how to recycle them and things of that nature. Does it mean it's all bad? No. Does it mean all fuel's bad? Personally, I like the idea of getting my fuel from my Canadian brethren because I think they're all good folks. Now, I talked to one of my friends who said, oh, no, it's not as clean oil as you get from Saudi. I said, but, I've never seen the Canadians take a woman, bury them up to their neck, and then decide to stone them.
Right.
2 points good for the Canadians.
Well, and then to add to your thought there, I mean, there's a significant amount of energy and oil that is used to move that oil thousands and thousands of miles to wherever its home destination is for additional processing. So you have to move it somehow. And my thinking has always been that if you can find the resource that you want closer to you, then you're not paying, another tax, whether it be an energy tax on the product. The closer you can get it, the better it is for getting it to the consumer without causing more problems or emitting more greenhouse gases and getting it to you. So there is something to be thought of for that. And even if the pipe breaks, how long do you think that pipe is going to break before somebody decides, before they rush out to get to it, to deal with it? I mean, we've learned, when we have these oil drilling platforms out in the Gulf of Mexico, when Barack Obama was our president, I don't forget how many months that thing leaked out there, but I mean, it did. And they're all telling us, oh, it's all fine now and enjoy your seafood. I mean, it seems to me
but you get a little extra oil in your seafood.
Well, there you go. I mean, it just seems to me that it was one of those scenarios where, if we don't see it, it's not a problem. But if we can see the pipe and it's on the surface, it's a problem. I don't know. I'm not sure I can get there. But again, I can appreciate different points of view, even if it isn't in line with mine.
A pipeline break the other day over in California.
Right.
I mean, probably some ship's anchor or something hit it. And they had like 150,000 gallons of oil.
Why do they even have a pipeline there?
Well, I mean, I guess there again, I think it's your point. If it's underneath the ocean and you don't see it,
yeah.
It's out of sight, it's out of mind.
It's out of sight,
it's
out
not
of mind.
really there.
Yeah. Well, then you're deluding yourself. I mean, that's really what that says to me. Well, that music means we're going to go pay some bills, but of course we want you to stay with us. Don't change that dial on AM 860 The Answer.
Stay with us. Got a plant question? Give us a call.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial problems with flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to answer your real estate questions, which we do. Also, of course, some plant questions, which people send to me on occasion. And I do occasionally a consult where you go with me and we go look at things. Mm-hmm. And often we inject trees.
Right. So. We try to save trees. I mean, that's the main thing. And, the idea is and even with the tree trimming companies, we of course we love Kelly Stafford at Stafford Tree Service, but again, if she can go out and have her guys trim the trees multiple times throughout its life, that's way better for her. It's way better for the consumer, and I know that's poor English, but anyways, the point is that they can service that tree more often. It's better than cutting it down once, and so we highly recommend that. We also want to mention too that if you want to buy some indoor plants, you can go to plants.com. That's plantz.com. And if you're if you're in the area and you want to have a plant rental, they also do that as well. They offer a plant rental service, but that's a different area of their website. That's plantz.us. So, the difference between the two is .com for if you want to buy indoor plants. And then if you want that Ficus lyrata, you can go in and go to the .com part. And if you want that Ficus lyrata rented in your hotel or whatever, if you're, usually they work for hotels and other areas, but I think they're starting to do more wedding environment kind of things. So, and they do a beautiful, like a wedding backdrop thing that they put together. And I'm sorry, Steve, that I can't remember exactly what you call that thing, but it's gorgeous. Go check it out and look at plants.us. That's plantz.us, and give him a call and tell him that the Ask Mr. Greenthumb show sent you, and you'll be glad you did. And of course, we also want to pay homage to Black Cow. They've been a loyal sponsor with us for a long time. They make the best manure in the business. You can't miss them. They're it's important. Yeah, it's important. Big yellow bag.
So let me mention. Somebody asked me the other day at the garden club, what is the biggest secret you could give us to having a good vegetable garden or a good flower bed? And I said, by far, remember, we've got 1% organic matter in our sand. That's not much. I said, I would add a bag of Black Cow manure. I said, not just because they're a sponsor. I said, I did it myself. I had a little avocado I put in a number of years ago, and it was in a bad spot, kind of. The soil was horrible, and the tree died. And I thought, gosh, how dare you die on Mr. GT, on Mr. Greenthumb?
Right, and we might add too that putting in you have to mix it with something. It can't be used straight; it's too hot.
No, I'd add it into the soil. You probably could plant actually a tomato plant right into the bag. And
could you?
Okay, and it would probably grow.
I stand corrected.
Well, and I will correct you when I think necessary.
But, well, good, yeah. I mean, because I want to give out good information, so I want you to correct me because, it does seem to me that certain plants would do really well in that. I mean, and when you open up the bag, I mean, they don't call it black gold for nothing. I mean, you open it up, it's this beautiful dark black complexion.
And it helps with the soil.
Yeah.
And so I did move my avocado. I put a new one in, and I put a whole bag of black cow, like a 40-pound, one of their big bags, into the soil. And then I, as you said, incorporated it into the existing sand. Mm-hmm. And that tree went from about 10 feet to now it's about 30 feet tall.
Wow. And
it did it in a short period of time. And, I get people sometimes calling me going, look, I'm 85 years old. I buy green bananas because I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow. And I thought, well, if you want that tree, now often I look at planting trees for the next generation. Mm-hmm. What you plant that big live oak out there. And I have some in Tampa Bay. I planted some live oaks for people 40 years ago. And now those trees are mature, great big trees. And I planted one at the rinks behind where I used to live in Northeast St. Pete. Mm-hmm. And I planted one in Seminole. I planted a number of them around Tampa Bay. And they were good-sized trees then, but they weren't like that.
Right.
And it's kind of fun to go back and say, I planted that big tree that's now 50 feet tall and is spread 50 feet.
Right. You can leave your mark in a positive way that you were here, and the trees will be here long after you're gone, and probably long after I'm gone. So that's a beautiful thing. I mean, one of the things that you always like to tell people is that, in the past, I forget what president it was, but you said that there was a president we had that planted something like 300 million trees.
3 billion.
3 billion
and
trees.
Good old FDR.
Okay, there you go.
Now, back then, they didn't just usually hand you money. Even though he was a kind of a progressive, FDR said, let's get people out working. Let's have them doing something for their money, which I personally think that's not a bad idea. I mean, if our country could use 3 billion trees planted today, and it could, when you talk about all the fires and all the heat increase, well, trees take up carbon. They're a big carbon loader, and that is important.
Right.
It helps to cool.
Right. I mean, if you want to offset the amount of gas and petroleum that are being used, then one of the great ways of doing that would be to plant more trees. I mean, I think it's just that's too simple. I think, human mind wants to do more. It's almost like the same kind of thing with, how we handled the COVID thing. Washing our hands, 6 foot, getting a vaccine. It's just too simple. We need more. We've got to have more. We've got to have a mask. We've got to have this. We've got to have that. And, so in my mind, we've got to, the human brain wants to do more than what is really actually required. But switching gears, one of the things, since the other part of our show, of course, is real estate, one of the things I was going to mention that I did make the news that I thought was interesting is it says, Florida mother of 2 receives notice to either get vaccinated or face eviction. And she, of course, says she was very shocked. So it's interesting. This happened in Florida. So I don't know exactly how that'll work out.
Seemed like that could be a good court test case.
Yeah, it says a South Florida mother of 2. She was very shocked to receive a notice from her landlord to either get vaccinated within 2 weeks or face eviction from her apartment.
I'm not sure if you can do that.
I don't know if you can do that either, but this is something that, she went on, Fox News explaining that this was her situation. And, so I'm hoping for her that, that she doesn't get evicted. But, again, let me just say, go get vaccinated. But I don't necessarily think you should get beat with the stick. I'd like to see more of the carrot. I mean, now, if I was the landlord, I'd say, hey, if you go get vaccinated, I'll give you $100 off your rent. I would more incentives, less stick. And I still think that is the right way I think we need to be strong on encouragement and less stick. I just think that that's human nature. I can certainly say when you're housebreaking a dog, when you first get a puppy, it's not that different from us in some ways. You
Sure.
know, if you give them treats when they do it in the right spot, and they tend to learn faster. And I just think
I knew it worked with you when you were little, so.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, hey, you know, I'm a big one for more carrot, less stick.
I think that's a grand idea, and I think that's something we should do. Yeah, I'm a little leery when people start using, I mean, you could use that as an excuse for, you know, if you have had COVID, you probably have some natural immunity, and that's usually not taken into consideration.
I don't know if we've done any mass case studies to show what the immunity is after that. I think there is immunity. Obviously, I would love to know what the immunity is and how. I mean, we have all the data for what the vaccines do, but we don't really have data as to what the natural immunity is. And I think it would have been a good idea to study that too, so that we would have had some understanding on that, you know, segment of the population, which we currently, to my knowledge, don't have.
More study is usually better.
Exactly. So I do have some statistics. One of the things that's interesting for people, and again, one of the reasons I get into talking about a lot of the individual stats in real estate is because I don't care whether or not you're in the business or not. In particular, everyone has bought and sold some property at some time or another in their life, usually. I mean, I always consider real estate to kind of be like cutting grass. Everyone's an expert in it because everyone's dabbled in it at some point or another in their life. And so one of the things that I was going to mention is I got this from from Stellar MLS. And of course, they have all of the stats, and it was saying, again, this covers a large swath of Florida, so it's not just Pinellas County or Hillsborough, it's covering a large swath, but it says the average sales price for August of 2021 was $379,000. That's the average selling price. Okay, so I thought that was, it's kind of interesting to know. And then probably more glaring is if you went back to last year, the average selling price from a year ago was $319,000. So we've so literally the average selling price now is $60,000 more. So put that in your brain and try to take it in. I mean,
that's a huge
That's
change.
a huge change. So, now, I mean, that being said, there's tons of other, information that goes along with that. But the general trend that I'm seeing is it's taking longer, but prices are pretty much holding. And when I say taking longer, what does that mean? A little longer, not you're still having some properties that are priced correctly, some homes that are priced correctly that are selling in a matter of days. So, but on average, it's taking a little longer. And I'll certainly get into more of those stats as the program goes on here. In our fourth break here, we'll come back and I'll tell you a little bit more about what's going on in terms of active days on market. And, average days on market, let me correct that. Average days on market, that's a real estate term there. And basically what that means is that how long it takes for amount of properties before it actually sells. So the average days before a property will actually go through and be sold, or at least marked pending, I should say. So a lot of caveats to that. And of course, with that noise, we're going to go take a break, and we want you to stay with us. We are here on AM 860, The Answer, and I'll let you do the sign-off.
Yeah, and if you wish to be with us, of course, send us pictures of your trees or your plants, your tomatoes, whatever it may be. Or if you've got a real estate question, we will try to answer that as well. So stay with us as the gardening and real estate talk continues.
Want to talk real estate auctions? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, FloridaAuctionTeam.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at AskMrGreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give them a call. 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here, of course, to answer your real estate questions, whatever they may be, and, of course, also plant questions. I'm a horticulturist. I was a former extension horticulturist for 8 years, working for IFAS, for the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, and answered probably 100,000 questions while I was there. Also gave a lot of programs. Kind of helped develop my ability to do the radio and television that we have done over the years. You helped me produce a TV show for 2 years on CBS, and I was always happy to say we beat not only local CBS News, we beat national CBS, we beat Face the Nation, and we beat the NFL Today.
And we beat the reruns of, what was it, CSI?
CSI. Yeah.
CSI.
I used to go to Bill Diaz, who was a wonderful guy, who lives in Tampa Bay area.
If you can beat the reruns of CSI.
Well, beating NFL Today was no, and that was good. Plus, well, to me, if you beat CBS News out of New York, how many millions do they spend to put up CBS News out of New York?
A ton. No question about it.
I mean, we didn't beat them horribly. We just beat them badly. But
I was happy with that. Beating them badly is good.
But so in other words, when they come to you and they go, oh, I don't know, does this gardening thing work? Well, we used to have about 80,000 viewers on our little show on the CBS channel. Mm-hmm. And, you just figure we filled up Tampa Bay Stadium plus. So that wasn't bad in numbers. That was pretty good. Actually, I did pretty good in the old days, too, when I was on PBS. Because people like gardening.
Right.
Why shouldn't you? It gives you the trees, the shrubs, the plants, the veggies. And I try to be one of those guys that knows a lot about a number of different areas. Now, there are certain people in certain specialties that know more than I do.
Oh, of course.
And that's fine. And I can always learn more. Which brings me to a point of a plant that I talked. It's called a ZZ plant.
Actually, ZZ Top plant.
ZZ Top. It was given to me by my neighbor.
Or?
And, I thought it was in the ficus family at first. And I had to realize it's in the Eriaceae family.
This has nothing to do with the rock band.
Nothing to do with those guys with the big beards
and the sunglasses.
Sunglasses.
The ZZ plant. Oh, now, if I remember correctly, Steve Stanford sells those on plants.us. That's plantz.us. I believe he sells those.
See, I like it because it's tough.
Yeah.
It's rough and gruff. Actually, my neighbors Mitchie and Jesse gave me this plant.
The ZZ plant. And that's literally Z and then a Z.
A Z and a Z.
Right.
And Zanzibar is sometimes called. But a great plant. And I like it because it's rough, tough, gruff. It does take in pollutants and gives off oxygen. So that is a good thing. So that was my plant of the week that I decided that I should bring in. Mm-hmm. And of course, that other story which we mentioned about the there's 16.7 million small engines that are being run in California.
Oh, yeah. You were talking about this on an earlier set.
And earlier segment. And, of course, they're saying that's a lot of pollution.
Right.
So they're
it is. It is. The big question for me, especially in the commercial setting for guys, is they're all set up currently to use gas.
To use power equipment, sure.
To use gas power equipment. And if I remember reading this article myself, actually, and I think one of the issues in that article was they only set aside $30 million for to help the guys in the industry to offset the costs of having to change over. Well, California's a major state. I mean, it's huge.
Sure.
If you're going to tell me that I can't use a gas-powered weed whacker on my crew, unless they're going to provide exemptions for commercial landscape companies.
And they may have to, I don't know, because those guys are all set up with thousands and thousands of dollars in equipment.
These guys, and for people that don't know this, I mean, you go out there and you want to buy a new Dixie chopper or an X-Marks or, again, I have no brand preference here, but those things can be $10,000, $12,000 or more. you know, depending upon all the little extra features that you get added onto it. And, you know, you and I, we look at a weed whacker, and most people do, the consumer brands, and they're like, $200 for a weed whacker. Okay. These guys are going to go spend $500-$600 on one weed whacker, you know, and then they're going to outfit their crew with 5 or 6 of these things, you know, if it's a big crew and a big place that they're trying to do. So I don't know. I think California is going to have to set aside more money to help offset the cost if you're going to have such a sweeping law that changes those things. So that would be my big concern with what they've done there, is that you know, the unanticipated effects of the small guy. Now, what I will say is if you don't do that, then what they're going to do is the landscape crews will come in and they're going to say, I'm going to have to cancel my contract with you because I can't make any money because I can't use my petrol fueled equipment. And I have to retrofit now, and it's going to cost me $30,000 or $50,000 to retrofit all my equipment. So now we were going to do your community for $5,000 a month. Now we're going to charge $9,000.
Sure, and people will just wind up paying. Well, it seems like in general everything is costing more than it did. Of course, one of the problems when you come up with a lot more ideas to spend money is somebody's going to have to pay for it.
No, it's 100% paid for. Didn't you hear? It's 100% paid for. It won't be an issue. And if you say otherwise, you're just drinking the Kool-Aid from the wrong side of the party. But, yeah, we'll see how paid for it is or if we wind up paying for it. But, yeah, I like the article. I think it's a good one. I think that, ultimately, I think that, converting over to electric-powered stuff is probably the right way to go.
I think it's the way we're going.
I think that's the way we're going. I don't necessarily think the infrastructure is set up for that quite yet. I don't see enough charging stations. I mean, the at-home charging station is great. I think that if you want to, and I know that Tesla and some of these electric car manufacturers have set up, designated areas from point A to point B. They have waypoints to, if you want to go on a longer trip, they do have these waypoints. Now, one of the things I don't know is, since I don't own a Tesla or equivalent electric vehicles, I don't know how long you're having to sit there to charge up the power of your car. It would seem to me that you're going to be sitting there a while. But again, I don't know. I mean, you can go get fuel and you can be in and out of a gas station in 10 minutes. I don't necessarily know if it's the same case with charging up a battery, if you can be in and out of the charging station in 10 minutes. My guess would be is it's not. But again, total ignorance on my part.
Well, the lovely Mrs. GT was asking me last night. She says, what happens when you're driving around the interstate and you got that car over there stopped because the battery they forgot to charge, or that battery you forgot to charge? And I said, I guess they'll probably have trucks come out and go, here's a quickie charge. We'll put this on you.
I would assume that they're either quickie charging or they're towing them,
to a charging station.
To a charging station. I mean, that would be my guess. I mean, one of the crazy things that I saw on Facebook a few months ago, somebody had called, and again, mind you, we're doing all of this for the idea of being good stewards to the environment. The tow truck was called out, and he cranked up a diesel-powered generator with black smoke pumping out of it, and he plugged in a cord into the generator and started charging the Tesla, and it looked a little stupid because the whole point was to not use fuel to buy this vehicle, and yet the thing that was saving it to get it charged up so that it could drive it home was a diesel-powered generator to do that. And, so to me it looked, like an oxymoron, but so again, that's something that's definitely odd looking.
Well, I was thinking the other day too. I said, if we're worried about rising tides because of global warming, we've got areas in California where it's awfully dry, and a lot of fires. What about pumping the water? You can use solar, use other ways, use wind power if you want to process that water. So you take the salt out, which can be a byproduct, and then have it take that water and pump it to where you need it. And, because California is kind of one of the breadbaskets of Florida. Without having the areas that we grow. I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea of my pecans not being available when I want them because...
Or almonds.
Or almonds.
Right.
Or any nut for that matter,
Well, yeah,
which are healthy.
Yeah, I mean, but the amount of almonds that California grows
is tremendous.
It's a tremendous
or
amount.
It was.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is that there are some places out there in California where they're literally ripping out almond trees because of the amount of water that they use, and the amount of water that they have isn't sufficient to grow the tree to fruition to be economically viable. And so they're literally having to remove them, and so that's something that they're going to have to think about as they move forward. And the end of that with this music means the end of our show, but we certainly appreciate those that are listening. And of course, if you want, stick around for the Dr. Bill show here coming up in about 20 seconds.
Stay with us, or stay with him.
Stay with him.